Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hi. Welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome to Fatal Blend. I'm T.
And I'm Jay.
And we're here to talk about serial killers.
And other stuff.
Every single week.
Which just blows your mind that there's that many serial killers out there that we can talk about them every single week.
Oh, yeah. No, we have episodes for years. Just based off my serial killer encyclopedias, we have 300. Just based off of those. And there is quite a few people that are not in my books. The encyclopedias I have are specifically for some of the worst serial killers, but there most definitely are more than what are even in my book. So we have episodes for years.
Well, and I swear there was talk about, one being up in the northeastern area of the United States. I haven't heard much about that. There's the one talking about in the Oregon area. Haven't heard much about that. So
yeah.
There's probably more out there.
Oh, I totally think so.
And there will be more coming. So
I just think that we see less serial killers now because of technology, and DNA evidence can catch them faster.
It's a lot harder to get away with for longer.
Yeah, well, for longer. I was going to say, you're still going to find people that are serial killers. It's just they're not going to be able to kill 60 or 70 people. They're going to be able to kill like 2.
Some of these people were over, 10, 15, 20 years they were killing people.
Yeah.
So the other thing we like to talk about is what we're drinking. So what are you drinking?
Today, I am drinking an iced coffee with a little bit of stevia and some coconut milk creamer. I'm kind of a creature of habit. If you notice, it's either iced Americanos or iced coffees, and that's about it.
And I'm going to hit it, and iced tea. I'm going to hit it for the second week in a row, trying to plug Milo's or Milo's or however you want to say it. So if anybody out there, shout them out. Their 0-calorie sweet tea is
the bomb diggity for somebody who likes
to
sweet
where
tea.
I went to another place and got a tea that was sweetened that I
we'll
usually
just call
like.
it out. We went to Starbucks.
And it didn't taste good. And I'm not sure if it was made like crap or if it was just the tea that I've been drinking. I just prefer now.
No, he had me drink. I will say it tasted a little off, but to be honest with you, I can't stand sweet tea, and it just doesn't taste good to me. And so I will say that I think it's just the sweet tea that he's been drinking from Milo's is just that much better than the Starbucks tea.
So thank you, Milo's. And if I can buy stock in you, I will, because how much I'm going to drink, definitely make your stock go up.
Correct.
And that brings us forward to the next stage in our conversation.
Which is, who are we talking about?
Who are we talking about?
We are talking about a man named Peter Woodcock. Now, I don't know, that name might sound a little bit familiar. It sounded familiar to me. And I was like, why the fuck do I know this name? And it's because I've actually mentioned him in one other case. I mentioned him back in February when we were talking about Cody Legibikoff, which we'll get more into that later. But so if the name sounds familiar and you're like, I don't know who this guy is, that is probably where you've actually heard his name. Just FYI.
I'm going to also let you guys know that if you do hear some noises in the background, we do have let's call her an elderly dog that likes to
We don't have to, let's call her. She's 11.
Yeah.
She's an elderly dog.
She is extremely attached to T and has to be everywhere she is. And she's currently in here chewing on a nylabone because that's what keeps her quiet, but her crunching is pretty loud. So if you hear anything in the background, that's what it is.
And to be honest with you,
don't worry about it.
Kick rocks if you have a problem with it, because she's our 11-year-old girl. We only have so much more time with her. And we already have to keep her kind of isolated because our younger dog does not like her. And it was a whole thing, and they got into a big fight. And our younger dog thinks she's tough shit now. And so we keep them separated for a large portion of the day. And when we do that, she's the one that gets separated because she's 11. She doesn't do anything but want to sleep and like lay around. At night, that's the time that we get to hang out, and I am her person. And so when I come in to do the recording, she always wants to be. She's in almost every single one of the recordings that we do.
Yeah.
But on here and on Crime Bitches.
Well,
so
her name started out one name, and we've given her a lot of names along the way, but now she answers to Grammy.
She does, because she's our grandma.
Because she's old.
So yeah, so if you hear her chewing on her bone, just let it be, because
it is what it is.
You're not here to listen to her chew on her bone. You're here to listen to me talk about serial killers.
And let's get back to it.
So we're talking about Peter Woodcock. His nickname is David Michael Kruger. He has 4 victims. His murder dates are 1956 to 1957, and then again in 1991.
Damn, that's a break. And I'm sure we'll find out why.
That you will. His location is Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I was like, wrong Ontario.
And his method of murder was stabbing and bludgeoning. And the characteristics of his murder are juvenile victims. So I can trigger warning this if you would like. I will trigger warning and say that this man killed children. However, I don't go into any real crazy detail on the murders. So if you don't want to listen to the story of somebody who killed children, skip the episode. But if you are okay with hearing it, you just don't want the super bad details, I'm not giving you the super bad details.
Yeah, and we just know that there's a special place in hell for this guy.
Correct. So Peter was born March 5th, 1939 in Peterborough, Canada. His mother was 17-year-old Wada Woodcock. Now, she ends up giving him up for adoption when he is just 1 month old. She had actually taken care of him for a month and then gave him up for adoption. And it was shown in his adoption records, when he was put up for adoption, that he had a feeding problem. So he wasn't eating properly, and he was reported to cry constantly.
Well, it's interesting that he was put up for adoption but kept the last name Woodcock. Because normally if somebody, when you get put up for adoption, unless he never was adopted or fostered or anything like that.
He was fostered, but he was never adopted.
Oh, wow.
So because he was fostered, typically foster parents don't give you their last name.
Yeah.
So he just kept his mom's last name. Throughout his infancy, as a very, very little baby, he actually was passed around to many different foster homes because of how difficult he was. It wasn't that he was a bad kid. He just genuinely would not eat, and then he'd scream all the time, probably because he was hungry. And so these foster parents would just be like, no, I'm not doing it. By the age of 1, he was actually terrified of people, essentially. He would scream and freak out when people would walk up to him, just people. He was also, he started to speak, but his speech was incoherent. You didn't understand what he was saying. The description that people gave to his speech was that it was similar to animal noises. So he wasn't actually enunciating words. He was very badly abused by his foster parents, by different sets of foster parents. And I'm not giving excuses, but I would definitely assume that part of that was because they wanted him to shut up, right? But again, he's a baby. You don't.
And I'll tell you, this is why I couldn't be in social work, because you see on the news and you hear these stories about these horrible foster parents. And as a foster parent, you're supposed to be there to help these kids, but all you're doing is getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And that shit just pisses me off. To the point where I've thought about fostering and stuff like that, and it just blows my mind that, these people are, these foster kids are malnutritioned and not taken care of, and these people are just living off the money they're getting for doing it. There should be an outrageous, prison sentence for people who get caught doing that.
The thing that has always
ridiculous.
blown my mind about people who foster is when they get kick the foster kid out when they turn 18. because they're no longer able to collect money. That just like, if I was going to be a foster parent, that kid's part of my life forever.
Yeah, bro.
Forever.
Like, you're here.
Doesn't matter if you live here. It doesn't matter if you go back to your parents. You're always going to be a part of my life. Like, I don't understand. Anyways. So he was badly abused by multiple sets of foster parents. So badly that at the age of 2, he needed medical attention for a neck injury from one of the abuse like situations. At the age of 3, he is finally put into an actual stable foster home. And this is with Frank and Susan Maynard. Now, they also had a son already. So they were already well-equipped parents. They decided to take him in. He's 3 years old. And by being with this family, he actually does end up stopping his screaming when people would walk up to him. He starts to not be terrified of people in that way when people would walk up to him. So yeah, when he was about 5 years old, he had stopped doing the screaming thing. He was kind of becoming more adjusted to life. However, he was bullied incessantly by the neighborhood kids because he was still very awkward. He had like hardly any social skills. He did not want to be friends with people, and he still didn't like people, but he just didn't have the major freakouts. Frank and Susan actually did worry about Peter, and they would frequently bring him to the hospital for sick children so that they could kind of help him, and he would receive like excessive treatments to try to help him, I guess, integrate into the world better. He also was sent to a private school, but was unable to fit in or even make friends at the private school, which you would think the private school would be a better option than public school. I know people probably disagree, but in public school, you have all walks of life, whereas in private school, it's very narrow, the people that you surround yourself with. At the age of 10 or 11, it varies depending on the article, but at age 10 or 11, he was described as an angry little boy by the Children's Society. So clearly his treatments aren't working.
Probably because all these kids were, picking on him.
Yeah.
You'd be pissed off too.
Yeah. Now, he was described by the society. This is their description of him. Slight in build, neat in appearance, eyes bright and wide open, worried facial expression, sometimes screwing up of the eyes, walks briskly and erect, moves rapidly, darts ahead, interested, and questioning constantly in conversation. He attributes his wandering to feeling so nervous that he just has to get away. In some ways, Peter has little capacity for self-control. He appears to act out almost anything he thinks and demonstrates excessive affection for his foster mother. Although he verbalizes his resentment for other children, he has never been known to physically attack another child. Peter apparently has no friends. He plays occasionally with younger children, managing the play. When he is with children of his own age, he is boastful and expresses determinedly ideas which are unacceptable and misunderstood. So they literally were watching, like they'd observe him.
Yeah, I'm curious about the comment about his eyes.
What, screwing up of the eyes?
Yeah.
I think screwing up of the eyes is like
you go cross-eyed, you got a wandering eye.
I'm thinking like squinting your eyes and like just kind of maybe rolling your eyes around. Like that's kind of what I'm guessing it is. But I mean, they show that basically he would be what I think in this world today we would consider an outcast or a loner. And he didn't want to be around people his own age. He would play sometimes with little kids and he would play okay with them. But when it was time to play with kids his own age, he would come up with ideas that were completely unacceptable for kids his age to play. They would also make fun of him. Nobody wanted to play with him. They didn't understand what he wanted to do because it was almost like he might have been too immature for his age, maybe. So that's what the Children's Society had observed about him. Peter ends up being sent to a school that's actually specialized in working with kids with emotional and behavioral problems in Kingston, Ontario. So he is sent away, and this is a school where he is sent away. He doesn't go there just for the day. It's like a boarding school, but it's for kids with behavioral and mental emotional issues. It is reported that during the time that he was there, he had started to act on his sexual urges. So he actually was sent there when he was 12. Now, this included having a consensual sexual relationship with a girl when she was 12 and he was 13. So he, being that he is who he is, one of his urges, I guess, were sexual urges, and he finally starts acting on them with people at the school. Now, at the age of 15, he is actually discharged from the school, and he is enrolled in a private school where he is unable to connect with the peers. He is unable to make friends. He is unable to do anything. So he ends up leaving the private school and enrolls in public school. Now, he immediately starts getting bullied by the neighborhood kids because they recognize him when he shows up at the public school, and they immediately take to making fun of him because they've never liked him. They've always had problems. And now he's been to all these different special private schools. People know that he has behavioral issues. They know that he's got these weird ideas, and now he's being made fun of. So after only 6 weeks at the public school, he actually leaves the public school and ends up enrolling into a different private high school. And he was also not received very well there by his peers, but he was described by the teachers as smart and that he excelled in science, history, and English, most of the time getting 100% in these things. So he was not...
It's that STEM, the science, technology, engineering,
and
mathematics. It seems like a lot of people that have these kind of social issues seem to accelerate at those type of schooling.
Yeah, I could see it. And I mean, as you can tell, I mean, he never had any friends, I don't think. From what I can find, he's literally never had a friend throughout his whole entire childhood because everybody made fun of him. And then he had shitty foster parents, and then had good foster parents who tried to help him, put him in all these programs, but nothing seemed to really work. So on September 15th, 1956, Peter meets Wayne Mallett, who is 7 years old, and he meets him at the exhibition place. Now he lures Wayne away from everybody at the exhibition place, and he strangles him. And in the early morning hours of September 16th, Wayne's body is found with his face pushed in the ground. There are 2 bite marks on his body, one on his butt and one on his calf. They also find pennies are scattered all around the body, and there is feces near the body. Now, the Toronto police initially arrest and interrogate a boy named Roy Moffat for this. He was 14, so Roy's a 14-year-old boy that they initially think that he had something to do with with this murder. They question him for such a long time and at such length that he ends up giving them a confession.
So basically a coerced
confession.
Yeah.
So he ends up confessing to the murder, and he is charged, and he is found guilty, and he is sentenced to a youth detention center. Now, by the way, there were witnesses who came to Roy's defense and said, there's no way he did this because we saw him at the movie theater around the same time that you said this little boy died. And the police did not seem to even think.
Because they had their
for
person.
1 second. Yeah. Then on October 6th of 1956, Peter is riding his bike around Cabbagetown. Now he comes across Gary Morris, who is 9. They ride together to Cherry Beach, and it is here that Peter strangles Gary to death. Now his autopsy shows that he actually died from a ruptured liver and that there was a bite mark on his throat. Now, instead of pennies that were being scattered around the body, it's now paper clips that are scattered around the body. And there is also feces near that body as well. Now, on January 19th, 1957, by this time, the Toronto police are like, that's weird. That's weird. The same kind of thing happened to this boy that happened with the one that Roy killed. That seems suspicious.
Well, Roy's not around here.
But Roy is still in jail. And they admit to the fact that they think there's something something going on that's not good. But instead of like re-looking at Roy, they just are like, well, we'll just keep looking at who we're looking at. So on January 19th, 1957, Peter is riding his bike. If you haven't figured it out yet, Peter likes to ride his bike a lot. I mean, he really does. Peter had a red and white Schwinn type bike, and he rode that bitch everywhere. Like, fucking everywhere.
I mean, back in the day, I think that was very common.
Well, and you figure at this time, he's 17 years old. Okay, so he is riding his bike everywhere at 17 years old. Okay, by himself. Like, this, what he be doing this shit since he was like 5, right? He's just riding bikes. So he's riding his bike, and he approaches Carol Voice, who is 4. Now he picks her up, and he rides to the Bloor Viaduct. He chokes her until she's unconscious. He molests her, and he ends up killing her. One of the things that Roy liked to do was to approach kids on his bike and offer them like rides and like, hey, do you want me to take you for a ride around the block? Like, this is why these kids, he was charming to these kids. And again, we already know from his history that he played when he was younger with even younger kids. Like, he connected with younger kids. And I do think, I mean, I saw one article that said that he was a charming kid. Like, people trusted him because he was just really nice to their face. So after the murder of Carol Voice, police are really like, okay, something is definitely going on, because now we've got another murder on our hand. It's another child. Something is amiss here in this old Toronto. People actually end up coming forward who say, yeah, we saw a teenager riding their bike away from the same area that you found Carol Voice's body. So they're like, did you really now? And they say, yes, we did. And they said, can we get you to, give us a description so we can come up with a sketch? So they do create a composite sketch, and it is put on the front page of the local Toronto newspaper. The police receive a ton of leads. I mean, a ton of leads. Because of all the leads that they received, they actually figure out that they need to question and arrest Peter. So they actually arrest him on January 21st, 1957. And he is 17 years old. So he is doing all these things as a 17-year-old person. Now, I know that the years don't make up, but his birthday's not till March. So just remember that. That's why he's 17. Now, he does eventually end up confessing to all 3 of the murders of the 3 people, the three children. He actually says later on, he actually stated to the police, well, my fear was that my mother would find out that I did this. Mother was my biggest fear. I didn't know if the police would let her at me, like let her get at me. Because the one thing about his foster mom was that they said she was no fucking joke. She wasn't abusive, but she demanded that these kids did their shit. They respected her. If they got in trouble, they got in trouble. So he actually respected and loved his stepmom or his foster mom. But he also knew that if she found out he had killed these little kids, that she was going to be the one that he was afraid the cops were going to like, which I'm sitting here thinking.
That's how it is in this household too.
I'm thinking, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Now on April 11th, 1957, he had a 4-day trial. That's it. It took 4 days. And he is actually found not guilty by reason of insanity. Which I know this sounds bizarre coming from me, but I actually agree with that. You can completely tell through the history of his life, he genuinely, there's something not very right. Something is not clicking in his brain.
Right.
He was never able to have any sort of a relationship with anybody other than his foster mom. He was never able to have friends. He was never able to communicate in the way that he should have. So yeah, I would say there's something probably not correct in his brain. Therefore, that is when you do the reason of insanity, because people who are born like that, where they have an issue, and I've said this a million times on this podcast, I don't think they deserve to die. They were born that way. They're not necessarily bad people, but they shouldn't be out in our world. They shouldn't be out on the streets, but they really should not, in my mind, should not go and they should not be killed because they're doing things that in their brain, they don't know right from wrong, or in their brain, they're seeing or hearing things, or whatever the case may be. But they most definitely don't need to be put to death for crimes. However, I agree. So I don't think they need to not be punished. Like, they need to be punished, but there's an appropriate punishment for somebody who genuinely can't comprehend what they're doing.
Right.
So he is sent to the Oak Ridge Division of the Maximum Security Mental Health Center in Ontario. So he is sent to a maximum security mental health unit, which is exactly where I think he needed to be. Now, Peter goes through a ton of psychiatric diagnosis while he's in the prison, and he is actually diagnosed as a psychopath or sociopath, or however you want to say it. So he is diagnosed as a psychopath. Therefore, he is in the right place. Now, he ends up receiving psychiatric treatments, which is a ton. I mean, I did not list them. I mean, a ton of different types of therapies and medications. And I mean, through I think I read 8 different types of medications he had tried, which is typically what you find when they're trying to deal with somebody who is a diagnosed psychopath or a sociopath, or somebody who, doesn't necessarily function the way that you would expect a person to function. There are medications to help them kind of stay chill, and none of them were working. Nothing really worked. He was actually described as not being an ideal prisoner because nothing was working. Now, he engaged, so while he's doing all these different treatments, he was engaging in coercive sexual acts and exploiting other inmates. So nothing was working. He actually had convinced other inmates that he was the leader of an imaginary gang called the Brotherhood, and that the Brotherhood was on the outside of prison and he was on the inside, and he was their leader. But the Brotherhood's not real. He doesn't have a gang. We know this. He doesn't even have friends. Now, he would use that to obtain sexual acts and sexual favors from inmates. And he would use that to obtain items like cigarettes and stuff from other inmates by promising them that if you give me this or if you do this, that is part of the initiation into the Brotherhood gang and you'll be protected.
So he's making his Brotherhood.
No, because he's not going to protect them and they're not part of his
but what I'm
anything.
saying is he's
none of those people, all the people that he did this to, not one of them was he friends with. Not one of them did he protect. Not one of them did he create gangs. Not one of them did he hang out with. He did it specifically to get things from people or to have them perform sexual acts on him. And that was it. That was it. There was no Brotherhood. There was no gang. There was no protection, which is one of the things that he was promising, is that they'd be protected by the Brotherhood. And there was no protection because if these people would get in fights, he wasn't there to help them.
Well, not just that. This is a hospital for the criminally insane.
Correct.
And so the people he's talking to probably aren't
absolutely
in their right mind.
He took that opportunity. Again, he took the opportunity to coerce the people that he was in there who already, like you said, they may have been on medications that made them feel differently, or they may also be the same as him and they're just believing what he's saying. Doesn't matter. The fact that he was able to manipulate people like that tells you all the things you need to know. Now, Peter ends up getting moved eventually to a less restrictive institute, which blows my fucking mind. He was considered a not ideal prisoner because he was not responding well to any of the treatments, and yet they move him to a less restrictive institute, and they send him to Brockville Psychiatric Hospital. So instead of being in a maximum security mental health institute, they send him to a psychiatric hospital that has less restrictions. Now, while he's there, that is where he legally changes his name to David Michael Kruger. I have no idea why. He doesn't say. Nobody's ever said why. My guess is maybe he was just trying to get away from the Peter name. I don't fucking know. For the rest of the episode, we will still call him Peter, though.
Yeah, probably new hospital, new
life type of thing. Yeah. So while he's in this hospital, he actually ends up getting into a relationship with Bruce Hamill. Now, Bruce, at that time, worked as a security guard at the courthouse. And he also was a former patient of the Brockville Psychiatric Hospital. So he met him. They had this relationship. Bruce gets out. Bruce is working at the courthouse. This is how it goes. So Peter tells Bruce that all of his problems will be solved by the Brotherhood if he helps Peter kill Dennis Kerr, who is another inmate at the Brockville Psychiatric Hospital. So he basically is telling Bruce, like, listen, you'll be protected. Your life will be great. I've got the Brotherhood will protect you. But in order for me to help you and me to let the Brotherhood know, I need you to help me kill Dennis. Is that a fair trade?
And he's probably like, yep.
So Bruce actually ends up signing Peter out of the Brockville Psychiatric Hospital for an escorted day outing on July 13th, 1991. Now, within the first hour, it is arranged that Peter would meet up with Dennis in the woods near the psychiatric hospital. And he was telling Dennis, like, listen, meet me here. We're going to get you here. And then I'm going to give you some money. Like, I'm going to let you borrow some money and we're going to do some stuff. So Dennis arrives, and within minutes, he is hit in the head with a pipe wrench. And then the two of them, Peter and Bruce, beat him to unconsciousness. Then Peter and Bruce use a knife and a hatchet to stab him. And then they end up completely mutilating his body and almost decapitating him.
Damn.
Then they both sodomized his deceased body after he died. Now, after this is done, Peter and Dennis walk into a police station and turn themselves in. I don't know why.
Interesting.
They do. Now, Peter, once again, after this happens, is moved to the maximum security mental health center that he was in before. They were like, oh, shit, my bad.
We didn't
mean to let you go. We didn't mean to let you out. Now, while he's there, multiple times he tried to explain why he committed the murders that he did, but none of his reasons were ever rational. Like, he would come up with reasons, but people were like, but that don't even make sense, bro.
Right.
Like,
because his mind isn't fully there.
Correct. And he was trying to do like movies and books and shit. And when he would talk to people and interview with them and they were like, yeah, tell us about it, he would tell them and they'd be like, yeah, that doesn't even fucking make sense. And so it never worked out for him. Now, on March 5th, 2010, on his birthday, Peter dies of natural causes. And he was 71 years old when he died.
Oh, okay, I could see 71.
He was 71.
I wasn't doing the math and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, he was 71 years old, but it's crazy because he died on his birthday. But the fact that you got to think about it. He went to jail when he was 17 years old. Or not jail, but the mental health institute when he was 17 years old. And he died at 71. So how many years was that?
54.
So he spent 54 fucking years in a mental institute type prison.
Yeah, that's
Isn't that crazy? So, do you want to hear the shots?
Oh, yes, we do.
So, Peter had some very early signs of violent ideas. For instance, he was walking with a social worker at the Canadian National Exhibition. And while he was there, he said that he wished that a bomb would fall on the exhibition and kill all the children.
So he hated kids.
He's always hated kids.
Right.
Always hated kids. Now, throughout his childhood...
Probably because he ties the kids that made fun of him.
Well, and he was a kid when he said that. He wasn't like an adult. He was with a social worker. He was literally a kid when he said that. So he has hated kids forever. Throughout his childhood, Peter would ride his red and white bicycle around the neighborhood. Now, during this time, he reportedly said the reason he rode his bicycle so much, and you'll get this, is because he felt free. Okay, like I know that's how you were as a child. He
Rode
felt
my bike
free
everywhere.
Yes, he felt free, and he said that he felt like it was the only time he could be like away. But he also, during that time, had it in his mind that he was leading a gang of 500 invisible boys. And the gang, he called it the Winchester Heights Gang. And he would tell people that he's leading these 500 boys to be in his gang. They were invisible. Nobody saw them. Obviously, he did not have 500 friends. And so
I wonder if he saw him, though.
I sometimes wonder that but they never diagnosed him with any sort of
like schizophrenia
hallucinations or anything.
Like that, yeah.
But I don't know if it was that or if he was just like imaginary friend type thing because of the fact that he was such a lonely person. But the fact that he would ride his bike and pretend like he was leading a gang of kids around the neighborhood, that's a red ass flag anyways.
You think?
Like, not, I mean, it's, you can have imaginary friends, but 500 boys that are also gang members of the Winchester Heights gang, that's a fucking...
Yeah, it's like the difference between being stung with 1 bee versus 500 bees.
Sure, but not really. He would use this time that he was riding his bike around the neighborhood. And by the way, by the neighborhood, it's not his neighborhood. It's like he would purposely ride like 10 or 15 minutes away from where he lived and ride his bike through these neighborhoods because he would use that time to start sexually assaulting little kids. So he would ride his bike around these neighborhoods and he would pull up and be like, hey, check out my sweet bike. And the kids were like, oh, that's so cool. He's like, hey, you want to ride around the neighborhood? And they would get on his bike and he would bring them to a secluded area and sexually assault them and then leave. And he said he purposely did that in neighborhoods that he was not living near so that
they
he
couldn't be like, hey, that's the guy.
They didn't know who he was. And he was doing this as a kid. And his foster parents had no idea. They just thought he was freely riding his bike and it was the one thing he liked to do. But what they did not know is that he was sexually assaulting multiple kids, like at a young age, like 8, 9, 10 years old. He's out there sexually assaulting kids.
Damn. So it makes you wonder, like, if all the people that had gotten sexually assaulted stepped forward, how many that would be.
No shit. Because he didn't, I don't think.
Because he rode his bike everywhere, like, every day.
Yeah. And I don't think he killed any of them. I think, honestly, what made him start killing them was the fact that he just was way stronger and bigger.
Or maybe somebody said they were going to tell, and that's what flipped the switch.
Maybe. Now, after his arrest and sentencing to the mental institution, Peter was called as a defense witness to Ron Moffat, the one who was falsely accused for murdering Wayne Mellette, the first kid.
Yep.
So he was actually called in as a defense, which is so weird because I'm like, why didn't he just get let go? like I don't understand why we have to bring him in and be like, here, can you tell them that you're the one that killed this kid? Like, we already know he's arrested.
Got a retrial just in case.
So he was brought in, and he was brought in by the defense, and they end up staying the wrongful murder charge in 1957. So Ron was released from custody. He was in prison for about 5 to 6 months, though. Like, it wasn't years, thank goodness, because he was only 14 years old.
Yeah.
So he wasn't in his juvenile detention facility for super long, but 5 to 6 months is a long time for murder when you didn't do it at all. He did say in a 1993 interview, I'm accused of having no morality, which is a fair assessment because my morality is whatever the system allows. Now, when Peter killed Dennis Kerr, he was 52 years old. Like,
damn.
when I was doing the research in my brain,
running that block.
In my brain, I was thinking he was like in his 30s or some shit, right? Like this young buck that's out there killing somebody. No. He arranged that shit when he was 52 years old. And during that time, it is said that he was actually going blind and he also had hearing problems. And he still fucking was able to pull this shit out.
Damn.
To date, Peter Woodcock is the youngest serial killer in Canada. That is why I talked about him with in Cody's case, because Cody is the second youngest. Cody was arrested when he was 18 years old. And Peter was arrested when he was 17 years old. So that's why I have mentioned him before.
Yeah.
Because he is to date still the youngest serial killer to ever have been arrested in the Canada in Canada.
That's crazy.
That is the story of Peter Woodcock, also known as David Michael Kruger.
Wow. It's a interesting story. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't go into detail. We did read about some of the detail, and it is...
No, it's too much.
It's horrific.
It's too much.
It's nothing...
If you want to know,
y'all can look it up yourself.
You go ahead and look it up, and it's the detail is really just around the little girl, the last victim. So if you want to look it up, that's fine. But there are certain things that I just can't stomach to talk about or say. It definitely gutted the shit out of me when I read it. So I don't feel like sharing it, but you don't need to know the nitty gritty details.
Yeah,
sometimes.
which knowing that she was the last victim and what he did, his escalation, to that point just makes you extremely happy that he was caught because it would have just kept getting worse and could have been younger. Like, yeah, he was somebody that needed to be off the streets for sure.
Well, and if you think about it, so he killed 3 kids in 5 months. So you think about it, had they not caught him, there would be a lot more kids that he would kill because it was like literally every couple of months he was killing another child.
Yeah.
So, and I would venture to guess that in between those murders, he was also still sexually assaulting kids too.
Yeah, and I bet you between the first and second
bike.
and the second and third, the times were less.
Yeah, I think.
Because I think he was escalating and it could have got real bad.
Yeah, I definitely am glad that they made the connections when they did. And I'm glad that he was dumb enough to ride a stupid fucking red and white bike everywhere, because even though he was in neighborhoods that maybe wouldn't recognize him, he was allowing people to see his face because he was thinking that there's no way they could know who he was.
Yeah.
And thankfully he did that, or else I do think we would have a much longer story to talk about. So thanks for being an idiot.
Yep. Glad this one stopped when it did. All right. Speaking of stopping, this is where we tell you thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for sharing. Continue to do so. And we will continue to bring these amazing stories to you.
Why do I sound like I'm sitting on a fucking Disney ride as you're telling me what I should be doing? Like you're saying it like a...
That's the Disney
like a radio,
voice.
like what the fuck? Like that was weird. Yes, we appreciate you as always. So please make sure you're following us so that every Thursday you will get that little ding ding notification that Fatal Blend has posted another one. And other than that, this is the part where I say thank you so much to listening to my story about Peter Woodcock, also known as David Michael Kruger. Until next time, goodbye.
And keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle. And bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.